And welcome back to the show. WeShield Sources distributes high-quality personal protective equipment as well as safety supplies to the largest hospitals, healthcare networks, retail entertainment brands in the United States. The organization was founded by a group of entrepreneurs who wanted to help those around them during the outbreak of the pandemic by searching for ways to solve problems more efficiently and meeting the safety needs of people and workforces fighting on the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us now to share a little bit more and provide further insight is the Co-Chief Operating Officer at WeShield, Erika London. And Erika, good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I know that you said, as I said, the lead, this was formed by entrepreneurs who really wanted to make a difference. Give us a little bit about where we are today as far as restaurants, and are they adequately being prepared for reopening through personal protective equipment?
Sure. When we started this long time ago, I'm a restaurant owner. Before the pandemic hit, I owned and operated about a dozen restaurants up and down the East Coast. Obviously, last March, this is coming up on the 1-year anniversary, here we are. The market was crushed. The industry was completely devastated, and all of the restaurants were shut down. When it first started, we had no idea how long it was going to last. We thought maybe, a month. We let go of our over 200 employees and said, just sit tight. We'll be back in a month. Shortly after, we kind of realized that this was going to be for the long haul here. In the beginning, my partners and I were kind of sitting tight, but the entrepreneurial spirit, we couldn't just sit there and do nothing. We had to go and, we had to help people. We had a lot of friends in healthcare that we were, it was devastating what was happening. They were using one-time masks for several days on end because they just didn't have access to anything else. They were using garbage bags to make, isolation gowns in hospitals. It was a very scary and very desperate time. So, we used our network and used our separate skill sets, and we combined forces with a couple different business owners who all were, quiet during that time, and WeShield started. Our restaurants are slowly starting to open back up, and it's definitely been a roller coaster of a ride of opening, not opening, closing, shutting down, back open. Right now, we're definitely making big steps and a lot of progress, and it feels very promising of what's happening in New York City specifically. We have other restaurants in Florida and Chicago and New Jersey. So, there's different guidelines, obviously, by state. But in New York specifically, the warmer weather is definitely getting people excited because I think people are just overall more comfortable eating outside. And just feel, for whatever reason, the virus is less scary when it's warm out. In regards to the capacity, we're very excited to be opening at 50% as of this Friday. But any restaurant owner can tell you 50% is just not enough. Right. We need to get to 100. So, the rest of the state is at 75%. We are hoping to get there sooner than later. And, in terms of, are we prepared or the restaurants prepared? Sure, the accessibility isn't the issue at this point, but the cost is. Right now, to properly equip your employees with the PPE that's necessary to follow the guidelines and to keep your employees safe and to keep your customers safe, it could cost you anywhere from $5 to $10 per employee per day. That's that's the equivalent of almost an extra hour a day that you're putting out in your cost. That's a lot for your bottom line at a time when you're already operating at a significantly smaller capacity with a lot less resources.
Yeah. Give us an idea. We're at the summer. The summer is right around the corner. You're talking about across the Eastern Seaboard, a lot of varying things. Some places are open, some places aren't. Talk to us about what can we expect this summer by way of restaurants and their preparedness.
Sure. So I think, everybody has probably already, if you're still open from the winter, you've probably spent a good amount of money on the outdoor seating and whatever enclosures and, the permits and whatever else is needed for the outdoor dining. So I think the restaurants that have been open all winter are super excited to get more people outside for the summertime, and they already have that built. Luckily, with the summer, you obviously don't need the enclosure. So for the restaurants that have been kind of holding tight, maybe didn't have the budgets to build out these, outdoor seating structures, they need a lot less. They have the tables and chairs from inside. They're going to put them out. And I think summer, we're going to see a big spike in not cases, but people going out just because they're going to be more excited and more comfortable.
So for restaurants right now, obviously, what would you, a lot of challenges, you've outlined them before. Talk to me about what do you deem to be the biggest challenge that maybe the public isn't aware of right now?
Um, Maybe what the public isn't aware of. I mean, I don't think there's anything new. I think the biggest challenge is really the cost. I think people really underestimate how much, margins in restaurants aren't huge to begin with. Most people are in this industry not to make money, but because they're truly passionate about the business, the cuisine they're putting out, the experience they're creating for their customers. So, being cut to 50%, people are like, oh, well, it's 50% now. I mean, you can 50% is really tough to operate on. So, I think the biggest challenge for restaurant owners, you're at a limited capacity, you're still keeping your guests 6 feet apart, and then you have to buy the PPE, which, as I mentioned, is a hefty cost per employee.
Mhm. I want to talk a little bit about you for a moment, as this is Women's History Month, and a lot of emphasis has been placed on empowering and educating women. Talk to us about you being a female restaurant owner and being an owner. What's the experience been like for you?
Experience for me, I mean, I've had a great experience. There's been many challenges. I'm definitely very grateful for where I am and everyone I've come across and all the women that have, helped me get here and empowered me along the way. And, now more than ever is, that this is the most important time for women to support each other and empower each other. And, what's happening to women in the workforce overall it's devastating. In the last year, the number of women that have been forced to leave the workforce, it's likely set us back probably about a decade from where we were before this pandemic started. So, for me, I'm definitely looking to help, bring as many people on board and as many women on board. And I think, the childcare crisis, I think is the biggest problem, which sadly you and I cannot ourselves solve. But, what we can do as female business leaders, we have a power as leaders that we can choose to exercise to help, help equality in our own workplaces. You need to use a lot of flexibility and creativity to create equality. You need to figure out what you stand for, what you believe in, and what you want your workforce to represent for the women, to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel like they can have both, that they, have options, that they have flexibility. You need to talk about it, and you need to create a work culture and, that supports that and not tolerate behavior or anything else that goes against it.
Real quickly, I mean, you've had the opportunity to transition as well. You talked about being creative, right? You talked about being that owner, and then shifting off to doing this, where you're providing PPE supplies to those who are affected. Talk to us about being an entrepreneur and making that shift, especially in a time like this.
Sure. I mean, any successful entrepreneur knows that you need to have your finger on the pulse at all times, and you need to constantly be evolving your business and changing things so you stay relevant and you stay competitive and that you stay interesting, right? There's a million different businesses popping up all the time. This is not exactly the same, but the core message being that, what do they say? Change is inevitable, growth is optional. The life is changing around us at all times. If we're not creative and if we're not adaptable, you kind of get left behind. So, for the entrepreneurs right now, many people's businesses have been ripped apart. Many people's businesses have been completely tore down. I think the most important thing to remember is that you had a successful business, even if you don't right now. And that means that you have a core skill set, or you have something that is of value that you can then translate into something else if need be, or bring it back. The entrepreneurial mindset, I think, the most valuable part of it is, changing your vision and your perspective and how you're going to handle a situation. I think in the beginning, for me personally and for my partners, of course, when it happened, we were full of anger, like, why our industry? Why our business? Like, it's not a secret that the hospitality industry was hit the hardest of, every other industry, because that's just what it is. But, staying angry at what we lost or what was taken away from us, or, it wasn't fair. Sure, those feelings are of course there, but I think the best thing that you can do, and my advice for anyone else out there, take that anger, you have a lot of emotion in there, and convert it into motivation and creativity to figure out, how are you going to get through this? How are you going to push through? For restaurant owners specifically, we see the light. The vaccinations are up. People are definitely coming out more. People are, dying to get out of their houses and into your businesses. So, stay strong and keep fighting because we're almost there.
All right. Well, Erika, we have to leave it there. Thank you for the great work that you're doing and, giving that support to restaurants and owners, much needed during a time like this. And definitely, I know the hospitality industry has been severely hit, and you're doing your part in bridging that gap. Thank you so much, Erika.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All righty. We want our viewers to know for more information. Guess what? You can go to their website at WeShield.us and follow them on social media at WeShield.social. Gotta take a quick break. We got more show coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.